Hello and welcome everyone to Demo Play, where I check out yet unfinished games and give my thoughts. My name is Kevin Franzen. On this first episode, I will be taking a look at the sequel to arguably the best game on the PlayStation 3. This is the Uncharted 3 multiplayer beta. Uncharted Drake's Fortune was a solid game, a fitting launch title for the powerful yet still fledgling PlayStation 3. It introduced us to the eccentric but charismatic Nathan Drake and his cohorts Elena Fisher and Victor Sullivan. We follow their adventure to uncover the secrets of Sir Francis Drake's long-lost diary.
Are you sure you want to be defiling your ancestors' remains like that?
You make it sound so dirty. Besides, thought you didn't believe me.
It had solid third-person shooting and cover mechanics with an emphasis on vertical thinking. It also was filled with vibrant colors and brilliant scenery, which helped distinguish itself from the generic gray-brown map seen in most other shooters. When Uncharted 2 came out, it took everything the first one had and turned it up to 11. Everything was better, from the shooting to the movement, and especially the improved stealth and melee commands for those of us who prefer to stay in the shadows. Uncharted 2 blew just about every gamer, game journalist, or internet reviewer away. It received multiple perfect scores and Game of the Year awards. It was that close to perfect blend of action, character, and story. Now, not only from the strong single-player campaign, but with the inclusion of a brand new online multiplayer feature, the developers ensured that the game disc would not be leaving our consoles for quite some time. Uncharted 3 seems to be following in that path of excellence with a total expansion of its multiplayer component by way of both modes and collectibles. It strives to be a fully fleshed out experience for fans of both competitive and cooperative gameplay types, and even though we were only given 3 weeks with this beta, it's pretty safe to say that Naughty Dog is certainly ramping things up this time. For starters is the presentation. Gone is the generic menu-based system from before. Instead, you get a kick-ass background with your character standing by in front of your personally designed flag. And as each match is starting, you get a look at your teammates as they come in to strike a heroic pose. Now, I know emblem and character creation has been done in games like Halo Reach and Black Ops, but it feels fresh enough here, especially when you see your flag strung up around the map. Also, given the fact that this is a third-person shooter, you are given more an opportunity to enjoy your design choices since you can actually see them in-game. The level of customization is pretty deep too. You can fashion your in-game characters with clothing and accessories you've unlocked through various treasure collecting in order to help make them fit your personality. And yeah, the taunts are fun too. The selection for the beta was pretty bare bones, expectantly so, but I hope as far as character skins go, we have the opportunity to play as heroes like Chloe or Tenzin, or villains like Lazarevich, Flynn, or any of the goons you shoot along the way, and be able to change their appearance how we like. One thing missing I would like to see is character slots. The ability to customize and select from 4 or 5 different characters per side would be a huge plus. I hardly stuck with one character in Uncharted 2's multiplayer, and oftentimes just set it to random. It was a small but effective way of keeping the experience fresh, especially after a couple of matches. Online competitive in general can sort of blur together. With so much content promised, this would be a huge missed opportunity if it were not included. It could essentially work like the brand new weapon loadout system. This weapon loadout system allows you to pick weapons, weapon upgrades, and boosters from a pretty wide list. Some of these items, like the boosters, are also upgradable by earning certain medals in-game. For instance, in co-op mode, equipping the Monkey Man booster, which grants you 20% faster climbing, and then earning the Tricky Boy medal a set number of times, will increase the percentage of speed by which you climb. The long-range weapon selection was decent. The standard AK-47 made its appearance, as well as the new M97 machine gun with its higher rate of fire and quick movement, and the GMAL, which seems to be the spiritual successor to the FAL from Uncharted 2 with its 3-round burst. Okay, now that I got my character ready, time to take him to the gameplay and matchmaking. The beta had 3 different stages: Chateau, Airstrip, and Yemen, with all different match types coming and going from week to week. There were competitive modes like the standard Team Deathmatch and Plunder, to newer types such as the 3-Team Deathmatch, Team Objective, and Free-For-All. Cooperative modes were also thankfully available, including Arena, Hunter, and Adventure. To touch on the gameplay itself, it plays just like it should. The shooting feels impactful, especially coupled with all the animations Naughty Dog is famous for with this franchise. Each weapon responds differently, and the traversal is very smooth. Also, my favorite part of Uncharted 2 is the melee system, and it's even better in this one, as they added more ways to use melee, most of which I noticed while climbing. I also really like the addition of the aiming reticle. Being able to more accurately line up your shot before pressing L1 to aim is a huge plus. Though I wasn't really thinking we needed one, considering I played through the first 2 and kinda learned a sort of sense about where the aiming was gonna go. But for any newcomers, this would definitely ease them in. The only downside is I more than often found my eye drawn to the little dot rather than the whole screen. So unless you can turn it out, it may become distracting, but that's why there's an option to turn it off. Overall, it's Uncharted gameplay. The second one is my current favorite on the console right now, so any improvements made is purely icing on the cake. The best example of this is the addition of drop-in, drop-out capability in all modes, allowing games to continue if players leave mid-match. This was, if anything, my biggest plaint with Uncharted 2's multiplayer, as I played a lot of co-op. Games would end more frequently than I liked because of players leaving games for whatever reason, or one would disconnect unexpectedly and then a potentially well-played game gets abruptly stopped. There's still 1 or 2 unresolved issues with the drop-in, drop-out mechanic, but I'll get to that when I talk about the modes it may affect. On to the competitive multiplayer. A couple of the brand new things this game now boasts is a buddy system and medal kickbacks, the latter being available in co-op as well. What the new buddy system does is partner you up with a teammate and you are given an incentive to work together. If the 2 of you work together to kill an opponent, an icon will appear over the downed enemy, and the 2 of you can run over and give a high five or fist bump to earn some extra medals for your kickback. Also, as you play, enemies you kill will drop treasures, and you collect these to earn more items to customize your character with. Since these treasures are purely for the player who earned that kill, nobody else can see that treasure, with the exception of your buddy. Your buddy can go collect the treasure for you if they have the mind to. The medal kickbacks are essentially temporary boosters that may give you an edge in a pinch, whether the ability to run faster, deal double damage, or quickly disappear to a different spot on the map. Earning various medals throughout the match will grant you use of these kickbacks.
Kickback available.
Could be from getting so many headshots in a match, getting multiple kills in a row, killing the guy who got you last, or simply getting lucky a couple times surviving nearby grenade blasts. Not much to say about each of the game types. Each of them worked as expected and were pretty balanced, but I'll fire through the items that stand out for me. Team Deathmatch is Team Deathmatch. Easy enough. Kill all enemies with a cap of 50. Though one way it stands apart is the cinematic elements. They were definitely a nice touch. Starting a match at the chateau level as the villains see you and your teammates hopping over the edge of the map, and your character moves into a spot and you start right from there. Also, there's an animation for the ends of matches based on who wins and the top players per team. Not to mention the airstrip level, where you fight on a moving plane with trucks chasing it. It more or less emulates the train sequence from Uncharted 2, but bringing it into a multiplayer setting. Now, wouldn't that be cool? You bring that you really bring the entire train sequence into the multiplayer setting in full. Think a chain reaction mode on a long moving train through the tunnels and open air, avoiding obstacles. Please, Naughty Dog, grant us that. Free-for-all is brand new to the Uncharted franchise and is a nice touch. My only complaint is the cap. 15 kills just doesn't seem like enough. Even go to like 20 or 25 if you feel brave. Make it variable or something. The games just play out way too quick. It also doesn't seem like the maps are small enough or not enough people are involved to consistently be in contact with other players. Hell, maybe I just got into the wrong match with too good of players, but these games were quick. I'm no pro, but in a standard team deathmatch, I'll get somewhere between 12 and 18 kills, and I had a hard time hitting even 10 in this mode. Now, maybe it's because I had to play the game play it a little more often so I can get up to pace with some of the other players, but really, I like my matches to last more than 3 to 5 minutes. The 3-team deathmatch was a standout among the new modes, something I've never seen before in a shooter. It tries its best to force players to stick together in their groups of 2, watching each other's backs. It succeeds pretty well in that regard, and is a fun spin on the typical team deathmatch. The one I did find most fun was Team Objective. It's pretty deep for a single mode, offering up deathmatch, chain reaction, King of the Hill, and more all in one. It's very effective at mixing things up from match to match, removing much of the monotony that I experience playing online competitive. Another way this game is set to switch things up is the new power play system, offering up teams a chance to catch up, including Marked Man, where you try and kill a specific player for extra points, Exposed, where you can see the positions of the enemy team, and then there's Double Damage. I'm sure Naughty Dog has even more to offer in the retail version. So yeah, the competitive multiplayer is pretty badass. There's lots to look forward to, considering we didn't see much, and really it's only going to get bigger from here. But for me, the big draw is cooperative play. Kind of my own personal gaming philosophy. Strong co-op mode will grab my attention far quicker than any competitive types. And I spent most of the beta sampling these cooperative modes. The first option we had for cooperative play was the co-op arena. The object was to attempt to get through 10 rounds of varying gameplay types within a 20-minute time limit, fighting alongside 2 other players. The rounds cycled between survival, siege, and gold rush modes. Survival is easy to grasp. Enemies pour in, shoot them, kill enough, the round ends. Everybody gets it, and there's nobody who really can mess this up for the rest. Siege, on the other hand, has some problems. To sum up Siege mode, a hotspot is placed somewhere on the map, and it's the player's jobs to stand inside it and kill enemies from within. Points are awarded only when shooting from inside the spot. Also, as long as all 3 players are standing in the square, a progress meter will eventually fill, removing any remaining enemies and moving the players on to the next round. Here's where the problems come in. Too many players think it's the best idea to play it like in survival mode, and then sit in the square for the time it takes to move forward. This first drastically limits the points the player can earn, since point values are multiplied in Siege mode. Also, it takes up a ton of time, reducing the chances for the team to finish all 10 rounds. Not to mention, it completely destroys the effect Siege mode is going for in the first place. It's meant to create a feeling of claustrophobia, with all the enemies circling in around you, and as artificial as it may be, it's really effective. Running around from outside the square just clearing house drastically reduces the effect. But you know what? That's fine with me. It's their fun and I don't want it ruined for everybody. But let's not punish those who want to play it correctly by staying inside the square. Let those in the square, assuming one or more is missing, receive normal point values for each kill. But when everybody is in the square, double points for all kills, which is essentially already happening. This will help reinforce teamwork and make it more worthwhile for people who want to play the mode properly, while not ruining it for those, unfortunate enough to play with said bad apples. If this was the initial intent with Siege mode, great, but unfortunately it didn't work. Also, as I said before about the drop-in, drop-out capability, if you are playing in Siege mode and one of your teammates left the game, your team has just been totally crippled, as the game itself doesn't compensate for the loss of a player. Basically what happens is the game still wants 3 players to stand in the square, but you can't do that since only 2 are present. This forces you to stand around hoping somebody joins in. Probably by the time that happens, you'll have killed the enemies, and you just get to watch the progress bar fill up while they start shooting you, because they're bored. Gold Rush is done very well. No real complaints here. It's simple, grab the treasure and bring it to the box and drop it in. Of course, with the endless enemies in pursuit. Great. Simple. If only there could just be a few more places that it could be picked up and dropped. The chateau is pretty much the same every time. Usually pick it up from under the zipline and brought to the corner by the damaged jeep. There is one other route, but it's not seen as often. The airstrip, however, is the same every time. You see Gold Rush mode appear and it's immediately off to the gas pumps, knowing you have to go to the chest near the planes on the other side. And it's a breeze too, since there are very few enemy spawns on the fence going left around the building. However, the Yemen level did get a little more creative. It forced players to throw the treasure around a little bit. More like that, please! I'm just saying, you have the treasure chests lying around, why don't you utilize them more like you did in Co-op Hunter Arena? So the separate pieces of the arena have some issues, but as a whole, the experience is thrilling. When you're clicking with your teammates and moving swiftly from round to round, it's a really good time. One of the things you'll run into on occasion is, of course, the co-op troll. The guy whose total objective coming into the game is to ruin the experience for the other players. There's no real way to combat that except perhaps a kick-out option. Team kills can also be an issue. There really needs to be some kind of disincentive. My best suggestion would be to wipe out the offender's kickback medals. This would also aid in the tension for assisting allies who are being choked. Running up and kicking them is fun and works very effectively, but if you can't reach them, you're pretty much forced to aim and shoot. But with the danger of losing your kickback medals, it definitely makes the task far more dubious and adds more of a dramatic element. Speaking of choke-out enemies, why can't I hit them with a melee attack? Ever? Okay, once they've grabbed onto somebody, but if I sneak up on one of them and I start mashing the melee button like a friggin' madman, they'll just turn around and grab me. This is a huge problem, and it has been addressed by several people on the forums, but it can't receive enough of this treatment. Believe me, I love the melee system, and I find it to be one of the most satisfying parts of the game, but there are big problems with some of the things in it, and they need to be fixed. I trust in you to do so, Naughty Dog. Please don't overlook small things like this, because it is those small things that immediately take players out of the game and catapult them right back onto their couch. Other things, though, that people say to change in Co-op Arena really baffle me. I've seen people wanting the time limit extended or even removed. To me, the time limit and number of rounds are almost perfectly balanced. If you work together and play each mode as you're meant to, have strong team cohesion and relative skill, you will finish all 10 rounds. You are meant to work for it, and it's deeply satisfying when you complete it. But since they're all players too, and the best idea is to make it fun for as many as possible, instead of changing or removing, keep what you have and expand. Have separate selections for Siege, Survival, and Gold Rush like you had in Uncharted 2. Then keep the time-limited Arena mode, but also perhaps include an Arena Endless mode, where sky's the limit in terms of how far you can go, of course increasing difficulty somewhat between rounds. I would even include an Overrun game type, to where all the enemies from a standard survival round are dropped in all at once and the players are forced to battle through like this crazy zombie horde of enemies. But that's Co-op Arena, undoubtedly my favorite part of the whole beta. But the next mode, Co-op Hunter, blurs the line between competitive and cooperative play in a really interesting way. There are 2 players on each team. Each set of players alternate between playing the heroes and villains. The villain team gets AI allies as well, and weapons work on a class-based system purchased by your earned medals. It essentially works like the Gold Rush mode, with multiple treasures on the map at a time. The heroes try to capture them while the villains try to stop them. I might make it not so obvious you're looking at a player-controlled opponent versus an AI-controlled opponent, but there is a greater sense of satisfaction when you kill a player-controlled enemy. The co-op adventure mode was the last item offered in the beta, and it plays just like it did in Uncharted 2, though I'd like to see some form of continuity. The set piece offered was outstanding, particularly with the climbing of a tower on the outer walls, shooting the enemies above and watching their bodies fall past you. More like this, please! The better combination of shooting and traversal have me really excited for what this game may bring come release. I already planned on buying this game on day one even before I played the beta, mainly because I played the previous titles and knew what to expect. But now I'm all too excited for this game. I could pick this up at midnight and play into the day this was so good, maybe even before touching the single player experience. So I bring you my own demo rating system. Not one based around numbers, but is more about personal hype. As I said, this game was already a day one buy for me. I knew that before the beta even started. But having had a chance to sample all the various gameplay tweaks, improvements, and especially the expanded multiplayer, I can't wait that long. That game just looks so good to me. I just cannot wait. So that's what we're gonna call it. Cannot wait. That perfectly encapsulates everything that I feel about this game now. I just cannot wait. I know Naughty Dog is gonna deliver. And really, Naughty Dog looks on track to deliver yet another Game of the Year contender. And this is the year of Little Big Planet 2, Deus Ex Human Revolution, Skyward Sword, and the 2 big hyped shooters, Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you on the next episode of Demo Play.